It seems the wrangling around the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 will continue longer after President Muhammadu Buhari declined assent to the bill. The National Assembly had in November passed the harmonized version of the much anticipated electoral bill, with both the Senate and the House of Representatives deliberating extensively on the report of the Conference Committee on the bill before it scaled through. Many were having a feeling the President would have little difficulties to assent to it, but this did not turn out to be the case. The President sent back the bill to the lawmakers without assent, inducing high costs of conducting direct primaries, the security challenge of monitoring the polls, violation of citizens' rights, marginalization of political parties, likely litigation, and manipulation of the exercise as reason. Now, what remains the fate of this bill? What are the issues that still need to be addressed? These and other related emerging matters on the President's decline to assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 will be the focus on the program Nigeria Today. I am Lydia Odidiochi. Welcome to the program. With me to discuss the latest development on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 is the Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council IPAC, and National Chairman, Action Democratic Party, Malam Yabagi Yusuf Sani. Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you, Lydia.
We hope in the course of the program to join Paul James, Programs Manager, Yaga Africa. We'll hopefully join him via Zoom. Now let me begin with Malam Yusuf. The President has declined assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021. What will be your reaction to this?
Well, this is a political process, and I think it's democracy in action. Mr. President, of course, has the right, to give assent or to withhold it, and he has withheld his assent. So I think to that extent he's exercising his rights. And not only that, the beauty of democracy is that there are checks and balances. And I think what has happened today is, that mechanism that self-regulates democratic process. The National Assembly, I salute their courage. They were ambitious in what they want to do. They would listen to a wide segment of the society, and they came out with a bill that they believe is responding to the yearnings of the majority of Nigerians. But one thing, this step that we missed, which is why I think we are where we are today, is the fact that the political parties were not carried along. Consultations should have been more deeper, and wider in terms of involving the political parties, especially the Inter-Party Advisory Council, which is the assembly of all the political parties recognized by INEC. And in fact, the assembly is of the highest decision-making body of the political parties. So I think maybe oversight or whatever it was, I don't know. But today we have seen the implications of not doing things the proper way, because I believe that when you are talking about electoral bill that will address the issue of transmission of results of elections, that will address the issue of how candidates emerge, from political parties, I think it's like the late Abiola would say, you don't shave, a man, his head in his absence, and that's what has happened today. And like the saying goes, if you don't stop the mistake will stop you. So I think not carrying along the IPAC is a mistake, and that's why we are now where we are today. So I'm advising, and I think without really gainsaying, that it is important that Mr. President listens to the political parties, and also National Assembly should also engage us, engage the political parties, going forward, because they want to hear from us, and Mr. President tried to summarize and also take a very wide and deep look at the bill, and came up with the reasons which you advanced. That one of them is the fact that you will end up marginalizing some of the so-called small political parties. I believe every party to us, as especially in IPAC, is a big party, because the same certificate that INEC issued to the so-called big ones is what is issued to the small ones. And I believe that Mr. President needs to talk to the parties, before we go further on in this process, because we are there, and the input that will come from us, believe you me, will be very, very useful to what happens, from here on. Why? Because we are the ones that are the key element in the whole thing. The key institution in the democratic setting is the political parties. Constitution recognizes that. People recognizes that. Without political parties, you cannot talk about democracy, because since 1999, when the multi-party system was brought in after the exit of the military, I think it is the political parties that are calling the shots in terms of presenting people, in terms of governance. And when you look at it, IPAC, that's the Inter-Party Advisory Council, it's the father, if you like, of all the political institutions you have in this country. You look at the executive, you look at the judiciary, you look at the legislative, all of them are children of political parties, and which means IPAC is the institution that must be given that recognition because of the role, the position it occupies, and the role that it can play in bringing sanity into the political space. For instance,
let's look at some of the reasons for the decline of assent by the president. He cited high cost of conducting direct primaries, especially at this critical stage of the country's struggling economy. Would it have been possible for every political party to carry out this exercise effectively?
Well, you see, if you look at the constitution of most of the political parties you have today, there are options, of either you do direct or indirect or even consensus, so that before you arrive at who represents you at the polls. So, like Mr. Susan rightly said, that it will be like abridging the rights of the citizens, especially the political parties, and who have their own constitution. Although the constitution, whatever constitution that political parties have, it is said that any law that is not in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is null and void. Because if, for instance, the National Assembly or Mr. President had given his assent to this bill, all the other provisions you have in your Constitution will not be valid anymore, because the Constitution takes precedence, in any case. So, but what is critically important is the fact that, yes, it's a very costly process, but when you are talking about democracy, and democracy itself says that it's the government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what National Assembly was trying to do was to ensure that the people are not shortchanged from the beginning of the process until the end. Because what you have today is something that is not completely representing what democracy is all about. Because here you are, when you are going into your primaries by way of delegates, that is the indirect process, is like a whole lot of people in a bigger chunk of the population, of the community, are excluded, because it's just a few that will gather themselves in a room, and perhaps they don't even know who they are going to elect. All they know is that some of the gatekeepers will come and say, well, and distribute money. And then that is why we call it a very fraudulent, process. And that's what I think the National Assembly was trying to do, in order to reduce that kind of money, changing hands when elections are taking place.
And probably that may not effectively represent the wants or what the people want.
Yeah, yeah. What the people want really is to have a right, a say in who represents you. But again, when you look at the logistics, which is where the problem lies actually, how you conduct these elections by way of, you must have people that will supervise it from the ward level to all the various, steps where the votes will. But again, one thing that has happened, why you must commend INEC in this process, is that INEC has managed to digitalize all the processes of elections in this country. And I think it is the issue of saying cost. Yes, I understand. It costs money. But believe me, the amount of money spent, in the indirect process. I mean, if we remember, in some cases they were even distributing dollars, to Nigerians, to buy their conscience and then let them vote for. They don't even know the person. So cost is not here nor there. But for me, Mr. President should sign the bill with or without the what do you call it, direct primaries issue, because the main theme of the bill is how do we modernize, how do we digitalize, how do we ensure that votes count, after at the end of the day. And the electronic transmission of results has taken adequate care of that. It will provide the environment for us to have credible, reliable, and peaceful elections that you can have a recourse. What you have been having before, you find it difficult to have any recourse, in terms of going back and then seeing what has happened. But with the electronic system, with the digital system, I'm sure that our election can hold a candle to any election that that is held anywhere in the world, by way of credibility and reliability, and the fact that people will believe in the results that will be produced. Yes, after the process.
Now, the president reasoned that it would be better to allow each political party to determine its mode of choosing standard bearer for elections. Now, would the parties be more comfortable with this?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's a situation that the parties are used to. That's what we have been doing. And Mr. President recognizing the fact that is our inalienable rights, that parties should not be denied that right. I think I give him kudos for that. And beyond that, you see, one of the inimical things that is happening in our political space is this cross-carpeting, that is about, in fact, it's making a nonsense of the whole political process, because a party will be given chance to field who they want to field, but when the person emerges as the winner, from the so-called small parties, the next day you hear the man saying, "No, I'm moving." You leave the party to the so-called big parties. So what have you done? There's no way democracy can grow in this country if we allow that to go on. So I would like Mr. President to take a look at that. I mean, a situation where a whole governor will leave a party, and go to another party. I mean, they're making a mockery of what, you call ideology or philosophy, or, the commitment and loyalty to the ideals of your party. And that, to me, it makes the democracy to be a laughable project, which is not supposed to be.
Okay, fine.
So I am talking about this because the whole process is how do we sanitize. How do we sanitize the system? How do we deepen democracy? And that's why I said IPAC, under our administration, under my chairmanship, believe me, we are going to engage with all the sectors of Nigerian state, like the judiciary, the National Assembly itself, the NBA. I'm talking about, so that we can come together and see what is the political solution, to Nigerian project as far as democracy is concerned.
Let me interject here. We'll take a break. There's so much to talk about. Let's take a break. We'll be back to ask more questions. Don't go away.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms: For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24,
news and more news.
You're welcome back. The program is Nigeria Today, and we are still discussing the President's decline to assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021. Still with me is the Chairman Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, and National Chairman Action Democratic Party, Malam Yabagi Yusuf Sani. We have finally established contact with Paul James, Programs Manager, Yaga Africa, joining us via Zoom. Thank you for joining us, Paul.
Thank you for the invitation and good evening.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Now, let me ask you. Some Nigerians have argued that most political parties do not even have accurate data of their members, which makes it impossible for them to conduct free and transparent elections. That's for primaries now, talking about primaries. This can give room for manipulation during direct primaries. How would you react to this?
So I think our position is clear. First off,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say for me, first off, the president missed a golden opportunity to write his name in the sands of time, because this is a process that has gone on for a long time, for over 18 months, and Nigeria had waited expectantly that the president was going to sign the electoral amendment bill. We had, the reasons for not signing the bill are germane, yes, but then if you also look at the whole atmosphere around it, why did it take the president this long for the president to communicate to the National Assembly? So, that is the biggest grasp about it. We thought that undermines public confidence in what the president is doing, especially in our election. As for the mode for the conducting party primaries, I, for one, for instance, I've always been an advocate for allowing parties to determine what best suits their interests. We know the challenge has often been about how these processes have been hijacked at the state level, which has always often been the issue around internal party democracy and also administration of the party at the state level, which we thought the party should have been allowed to address, given time to address as it best suits them. But the biggest concern I have with this is about how the rollback we have seen from all of this. We thought we have made tremendous progress, especially with some of the things we have seen around our election. And we thought by signing the electoral amendment bill, you have some of these processes perfected. For instance, we got barely 2 weeks until the commencement of the party primaries in Ekiti State, which we thought if the president has signed this into law, this will have been tested from Ekiti and then Osun, and also subsequently for the 2023 general election. But again, this is where we are. We are hoping that the National Assembly will act quickly on this. They got another 30 days window to review whatever is the issue with the bill and send back to the president. I anticipated that while we were hearing from Grapevine about the issues or the concerns about the bill, I had thought for once that the president will have done the similar thing that was done for the petroleum industry bill, sign the electoral act into law, and then if there are any amendment to be made, that can be resolved later. But as it is now, we are back again to where we were before now. And don't forget, this is also the president that 4 times had declined assent in the past. This makes it now the 5th time. And I think if we talk about confidence in administration, this is really a rollback, and it's really going to affect confidence going forward.
I'll still stay with you. The security challenge of monitoring the shadow polls is another issue of concern. The issue here is not just about the general security around the country, but the election process itself. The country seems to have so much on its hands. Is this a valid point?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Okay, I said, talking about security challenge of monitoring the shadow polls, which is a concern most Nigerians have expressed, talking about the security situation. The issue here is not just about the general election, security around the corner and the general elections, but the election itself, the direct primaries itself. Now, the country seems to have so much on its hands already. Is this a valid point?
That is why I said, for me, I mean, if you look at the pillars of democracy, you are talking about the pillars of inclusion and participation. If you want a participatory democracy, then even the constitution is clear that the parties should be allowed to determine what mode of primary election best suits them. For me, that will have been allowed to fly. And then we're having this argument at this point in time, I think is also, for me, just an unnecessary delay in the process. You talked about cost of election, and I rightly agree with you that if you look at this also, especially in terms of also the output, while if you look at the political economy of conducting an election, while the cost is incrementally going up, the output you get from this election is also often something that people are worried about. And that's also where the aspect of participation comes in. But then we don't just limit it to election day itself. Participation is broad. Even to go and register to participate as voters is also one aspect of participation. And so beyond that, while, when you look at other aspects of procurements and all of that has to do with conducting an election, by the time people begin to spotlight those or put interest in that, it's in itself another form of participation. Now we have capacity challenge, especially on the part of the Independent National Electoral Commission. These primaries, if we have to go with the direct primaries, they will be conducted in 8,809 wards. And given what we have seen, especially from the Anambra election, I would rather say I think we are not ready, especially if you look at also the cost that will be involved in doing that.
Okay, now let me interject here. Malam Yusuf, it is explained in the letter which the President wrote to the National Assembly, that he took the decision following consultations and advice from relevant ministries, departments, and agencies. The Progressives Governors Forum had earlier expressed their displeasure on direct primary arrangement and also visited the President on this matter. Do you think, and even some political parties, do you think they played a major role or part to influence the President's action?
Well, I believe that the President has consulted widely, but not wide enough. Because like I'm saying, IPAC was never contacted, and IPAC is the key element here. We are the ones that can tell Mr. President or anybody that cares to ask, like National Assembly themselves, what is involved. How do we feel? We wear these shoes, so we know where it pinches. You know, we could have saved ourselves all this trouble that we are in today if the President or National Assembly had approached IPAC. Come, political parties. These are the things we are trying to do, and you are the key player in this matter. What do you think? You know, believe you me, we would not be talking about what we are talking today. If this bill would have been passed, Mr. President would have found it, you know, an acceptable bill. You know, so yes, the consultation, like I said, going forward, there is a need to engage the political parties, you know, because you could still make another mistake if you don't, you know, and this is why I am saying that we have IPAC. People, all the parties are there, including APC and PDP. You know, Mr. President's, you know, political party is also there. You know, so what is wrong with talking to us? So the consultation was okay, but not all right, because if it was sufficient, we wouldn't have this problem. So my, you know, take is that yes, it's all right. Mr. President can make those consultations, and will continue to make the consultations, but it should be extended to those that are affected
involved
directly.
Thank you very much.
So that's my take there.
Thank you so much. Well, time is not on our side, so we'll have to stop here today on the program. But before we go, we'd like to thank Malam Yabagi Yusuf Sani, the Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, and National Chairman, Action Democratic Party, for finding the time to be on the program and sharing his perspectives on the subject. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Lily.
And we also appreciate Paul James, Programs Manager, Yaga Africa, who joined us via Zoom. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And to you, the viewer, thanks for watching and see you next time. Don't forget, you can watch this edition of the program alongside others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I'm Lydia Ojiji Ochi. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.